Hey there, it's Phil. Welcome back to the show. I am here with Christian Taylor.
Hey, Phil Vischer.
And we got video. Did you notice? We have
Hi,
video.
everybody.
Can you see that you can see me? Can you see that?
Did you miss him?
Now, only about a fifth of our viewers, our listeners, are viewers.
Okay.
We have 5 times more listeners than we have viewers.
That would make sense.
Yes, because it's like an hour long and you're driving and
Right.
you can't watch or you'll crash.
That's right.
But the viewers were definitely vocal about not having any video.
They were.
Because there was nothing to view.
And I figured out the best way to watch is on Apple TV. Because it's like you're really watching TV. You can sit there as a family and watch it on YouTube. Probably Roku also.
Roku.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think.
Or you can get YouTube.
Oh, you can get YouTube on Roku?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, then you can watch it there. And we don't have SKYE JETHANI, who's out of town once again. So I called Dr. Walton again to see if he could fill in for SKYE again. And he said, no, I'm out of town too. He said, how about my son?
And so we have Jonathan.
And
I am the 5-year-old who helps my father write articles.
This is Jonathan Walton. You're not 5.
I'm not?
You're not 5.
You look a little
Definitely
older than 5.
So
Yeah.
we have, and you don't have. Do you have a doctor? Do you have a master's? Do you
I have a master's degree in theology from Wheaton College.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that. I've heard of that. It's somewhere around here.
Somewhere.
Okay. Did you go? Was your dad teaching there when you went?
He was, but he's in a different department.
Oh, yeah, different.
What did you
department.
major in?
Theology. He just said that.
I missed that. I must have zoned out.
Hey, it's a podcast. What do you know? Hey, it's a podcast. We got our video. Hey, it's a podcast. Soul Engineer. The Vischer podcast starts right here. We won't talk to SKYE because he's not here, but Christian and Jonathan's beard are quite near.
Hey, that was good.
Thank you.
Way to think on your feet.
I pulled it around. Hey, it's a podcast. Soul Engineer. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here.
Hey, that was like extra good.
I have extra energy from the video.
Oh, awesome.
Because it's been a while. It's been like a month and a half or so since we had
a long time.
Video. So do you know where I was last week? Last Friday? Because we could have, if we could have recorded on Friday, then SKYE could have been here, except I was out of town on Friday.
Well, I heard you were going south.
Yeah, I was south.
Nashville?
Yes, for?
Was it NAB?
Close. What does NAB stand for?
National Association of Broadcasters?
Yeah, that's in Las Vegas every year.
Okay.
This is like that, but only for religious people.
So what's it called?
NRB.
NRB. That's what I meant.
National Religious Broadcasters.
Right, NRB.
Yes, and it's often in Nashville.
Okay.
Because Nashville is Las Vegas for religious people.
It is true. As is Branson. Branson's kind of close.
Kind of, yeah, but Branson doesn't have one thing that Nashville has.
Class.
Sorry,
Branson.
We just lost our sponsor from Branson, Missouri, Opryland Hotel.
Oh, it has a river in that hotel.
The Opryland Hotel.
I love that place.
It has a river on fire in that hotel.
I didn't know it had been on fire.
Did you set it on fire?
They're still looking.
They had a flood down there.
Was that an eschatological comment? They had a flood. Yeah. And the Grand Ole Opry flooded.
Yeah.
Did the river inside the hotel flood?
Well,
did it like back up?
Yeah, I think it backed up. But the even more distressing thing to me is right next door there's this Reef Aquarium restaurant thing and in the mall. In the mall. I remember
a
stingray reef pool where you could go in and feed the stingrays, and all of that aquarium and all the stingrays got flooded out and lost in Nashville, and I cried. I was so sad. I used to go and feed them and pet them. They're like puppies.
When did you do that? You never lived in Nashville.
My family lives right outside Nashville.
Oh, really?
Don't you remember?
So you've spent a lot of time at Opry Mills? Mm-hmm. Wow.
I love it.
I was there. This is fun. Before that was built, the theme park was still there. Opryland, the theme park, was the time. VeggieTales, our distributor was Word Entertainment. Word was bought by Gaylord Entertainment, which also owned Opryland. Right. And they wanted to talk about. They had me come down to talk about should we put the veggies in Opryland, the theme park. They had just brought in a guy from Disney to run the theme park and redevelop it and figure out what to do with it, because theme parks are really a hard way to make money, especially when they're only open, a few months as opposed to Disney World. And so he came in, and so I met with him, and he gave me a tour of the theme park, and we walked around.
Oh, I bet you loved that.
Oh, yeah, my brain was going crazy for where will I put the vegetables. And then they said, you know what, we're just going to knock it down and build a mall.
Oh, no.
Because there's much better economics
that's true.
in a giant mall than in a theme park that's only open 4 months out of the year.
Yeah,
and that was the end of that conversation. But I think I was there when they had drawings up. They were starting. I was there later, and they had drawings up for the mall they were going to build and the designs.
It's a big mall.
It is a
very big mall.
It is a big mall. But then,
so why were you there?
Oh, just recently?
Yes.
NRB.
I know that. You said that. I did pay attention to that.
I mentioned that already.
You did.
Okay.
I even heard it.
Okay, hang with us, Jonathan. This is going somewhere. It's all going somewhere.
Don't believe him.
I don't.
It's not really going anywhere.
Not smart.
They asked me to speak. Okay, so NRB, I never used to go to NRB ever because it's religious broadcasters.
Which you don't believe in.
Which is radio and TV.
Right.
Historically has been radio and TV, and I was involved in neither radio nor TV. I made DVDs.
Right.
And VHS.
Which don't exist anymore.
They've all gone away. Right. Everything's gone away. I think radio's gone away too. No, it's funny, radio has outlived DVD. That's kind of funny.
It has outlived DVD.
Isn't that funny?
But it was kind of stuck in time.
Do you think that's funny, Jonathan?
Yes, I think that's funny.
He seems to think it's funny.
This is how funny I think that is. It's hilarious.
Is this how you look when you really think something's funny? Or is there another level above this?
This is how I look all the time. My mom said if I made this face, it would stay this way.
Oh, and you did?
And I did.
And it did?
And it did.
Wow. I've met your mom. And she kind of has a similar look much of the time.
Yeah, that's how she knows.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
So they wanted to expand into film and not just be about radio and TV, which the broadcasting name doesn't quite fit if you're making films. But so they had a film summit this year.
Okay.
And started at 1 in the afternoon on Friday, and it went till 5. So 4 hours, like 500 people in a ballroom with a sequence of speakers that each had 20 minutes. And I was one of those speakers.
Okay.
And we were all assigned topics.
Ooh, what were you assigned?
All the speakers.
Did you have to write something actually for real, like something new?
Kind of, yes. But the title in the program
did not match what they told you.
Well, they told me to talk about why Christians should be making animated features.
Okay.
Which is like, okay, I haven't made an animated feature in about 12 years, more than that.
Some people don't know that.
Yeah, but I'll say why we should be making them. I'll come up with something. When I got there, the actual program said excellence in animation was my topic.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah, but I'd already come up with my talk. Oh. So, but it was, and I knew like half the people on the panel because it's not a very big world. So one friend of mine did excellence in screenwriting. They kind of went through the whole process. Excellence in fundraising, excellence in distribution, excellence in film marketing, excellence in scoring. Do you know who they had to talk about excellence in scoring?
Tell me.
Now, you might think, well, Kurt Heinecke, the guy who scored all the VeggieTales videos? No, they had John Debney. Do you know who John Debney is?
No idea.
Okay. When I was, he's now a fairly, he's like an A-list film composer. When we were doing Jonah, do you remember Jonah?
Very well.
A VeggieTales movie.
It was like the last thing you did.
Yeah, and then I died.
Right.
Yeah. It was the last thing I did.
We were all excited about it.
I know.
I was there for the opening night. It was very exciting.
It was
going to be huge.
Yeah, and then I died. The last thing I did on Earth was Jonah, a VeggieTales movie. And I've been in floating around in heaven with puppets ever since saying, what happened? Why are all the angels puppets? We needed to score the film. Kurt Heinecke and I were going to try to figure out how to score it because we'd scored most everything. And I was looking for reference, like what do I want to use for reference? And I decided that my favorite score at that time that I thought was most applicable was the Disney film Emperor's New Groove, which had come out like a year or two before that.
That seems like a really long time ago.
Where David Spade is turned into a llama.
Right.
Llama.
He was great.
I know. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
Go see it. Emperor's New Groove. Go see it. It's a great movie. But the score is
but
really...
you can't go see it, but you
go to
download
the theater
it.
12 years ago, 15 years ago,
Get in your
and
time
see
machine
it.
and go.
Yeah, go find it online. On YouTube, parts of it on YouTube. I said, well, who made this score? This is an awesome score. It says John Debney. I'm like, I don't know who John Debney is. But then he starts making other things, and he keeps doing bigger and bigger films. He scored Elf.
He did?
Yes, that's a fantastic score.
Oh, it is.
He scored Iron Man.
Wow.
Fantastic score. And he scored like tons
Is this like
of stuff.
a young kid?
No, his hair's grayer than mine is.
Oh,
He's just
okay.
been working. He did lots and lots of TV before he got to do movies.
Okay.
And suddenly he's like
So this
one
was
of
the first time you met him?
guys. Yeah, I've never met him before. So he was
Wow.
there, and he did a talk, 20 minutes, about excellence in scoring.
That's fantastic.
Which is a pretty tough assignment when you're at the National Religious Broadcasters
Definitely.
Conference, and you're supposed to talk about what exactly are you supposed to talk about. So he ended up playing clips from various scores he'd worked on and asking people to guess which movie it was from.
That's actually kind of interesting because you know what? He's marketing his talents to a bunch of...
I guess that's true. Do
Yeah.
you know what he just finished scoring?
Let me guess.
This is cool.
Let me guess.
It's a big Disney remake.
Then I can't guess.
It's not out yet.
What is it?
Jungle Book.
Oh, yeah, Jungle
Ding,
Book.
ding, ding, ding.
Nice job.
Yeah, he got to score Jungle Book.
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So anyway, I met John Debney.
Is he cool?
Yeah, he's a cool guy. Yeah, I liked him.
And he's a Christian.
He is. And I'd love to work with him sometime.
Wow, how cool is
So maybe
that?
I can work. And I found out that I have a friend named Dave Johnson who made Doc for the PAX network, which was the achy breaky heart guy. Billy Ray Cyrus.
Oh, yeah. Molly's
Miley's dad.
Miley's sad dad.
Playing a small town doctor who moves to New York.
Okay.
Did you ever see that?
No.
I think it was called Doc.
But I do remember PAX vaguely in the back
PAX
of my
network.
head.
It was Bud Paxson's attempt to buy every independent Christian TV station in the country
Right.
and turn them into a new Christian network.
That didn't happen well.
He bought them all. It never worked, and now they've all been sold to other. And so most cities, actually, because of it, lost their Christian TV
that's
stations.
sad.
Like Chicago lost its Christian TV station.
Yeah.
TV 38 was bought by Bud Paxson and then lost.
Huh.
Yeah, but that's neither here nor there.
So.
Because I was there to talk about animation.
And? What did you say?
It actually went very well. I did I had 20 minutes. I did a brief history of animating for God.
Now that's interesting.
And it's a brief history because there really
isn't a lot.
But the first
What'd you talk about?
The first line was, in the beginning, there was Davy and Goliath.
That's true.
That's where it started out. We went from Davy and Goliath to McGee and Me,
Yes.
to Adventures in Odyssey, the animated series, to Veggie Tales, to Jonah,
Yep.
peak of everything, to the last 16 years,
Obscurity.
nothing. Nothing new. Nothing new, nothing bigger than Jonah. Everything has gone downhill since then because we don't have a viable business model to do animation for Christian kids anymore. But in the meantime, we've figured out how to make Christian live action films that do very well. Right? Facing the Giants, Courageous, Fireproof, War Room, God's Not Dead, Heaven is for Real.
Risen's doing pretty good.
Risen's doing okay. The Young Messiah is about to come out. That's the next one.
Yeah, I saw that.
There's
That's interesting.
3 big faith films. God's Not Dead 2 is about to come out. All these faith films, and most of them are now making money.
Do we count Noah in that?
I don't. I don't.
I wouldn't either.
No, I don't. And people count Narnia, the Narnia films in that. And because they're not overtly Christian, you know.
No.
So they're
More
not,
so than Lord of the Rings.
Well, yeah, but they're allegorically Christian.
Yes, very.
Yes. Jonathan, would you count the Narnia films as Christian movies?
I guess so. I mean, you have to define it.
Exactly. You have to define
And
it.
It's not, I mean, they have themes that work well with the Christian worldview.
Yeah, but so does Finding Nemo.
That's a
Nemo
very
have
good.
themes?
Yes.
What are you talking
Redemption
about?
and restoration and
sending your son to
forgiveness.
save.
Does a movie have to have like a plot from the Bible to be a Christian movie?
Yes.
Well, then Narnia is not from the Bible.
Or
so
it has people walking around with a Bible.
Stop it. That's not necessary. That's not true.
So Saved is a Christian movie?
Anyway.
They hit someone with a Bible in that.
That does not
counts.
count.
Oh, doesn't count. So, okay, so I was speaking in a ballroom in the Opryland Hotel. And while I was speaking in that ballroom, there was a ballroom next to us.
Yes.
Where there was another NRB event going on. And do you know who was speaking in that ballroom?
Yes. Let me guess. It was Franklin Graham.
No. Good guess, though.
Okay, let me have another guess.
Actually, two guys were being interviewed.
Two guys
in
were
the
being
ballroom
interviewed.
next.
Was it the Sherwood brothers? What's their names?
Sherwood Pictures.
Oh, Sherwood Pictures.
They're the Kendrick brothers.
Kendrick brothers.
And then
Was it
there's
them?
the Irwin brothers,
Right.
who made Mom's Night Out and Woodlawn. And apparently there's another set of brothers that are making Christian movies. Someone actually said during the film summit, the first step to be a successful Christian filmmaker is to find your brother.
Find your brother.
Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz.
Stop it.
We're in the next room.
Oh, my goodness.
Being interviewed by, do you know who they were being interviewed by?
Had to have been some sort of Christian television. Pat Robertson.
Eric Metaxas.
Stop.
Our friend Eric Metaxas, who's been on the show, was the interviewer.
Who's become an interesting individual.
He has. So he was there with his radio show, the Eric Metaxas Show, broadcast from the top of the Empire State Building. That's its slogan.
Where does it actually air?
On the radio.
Which radio?
It's syndicated on, I think, Salem stations.
Okay.
I think. So anyway, he had a little booth set up, and he was doing his radio show live from NRB. So he had me on as a guest. Do you know? And in our show, which aired, I think it aired on Friday, right after we recorded it. The first half was me. The second half, yet another interesting person was Dr. Ben Carson.
What?
Yes.
In your thing?
Yeah, in the same show I was in. So I did the first half, but
I don't understand that. Why would he be in a film summit?
No. On the Eric Metaxas radio show.
Oh, you were on.
I was
I'm
on
sorry,
the Eric
you lost
Metaxas
me.
radio show because he was doing his show live from the floor.
I thought he was interviewing Rubio and Cruz.
Yes, after his radio show. After his radio show.
So you were on the radio show, then he was interviewing them. Before you, it was Ben Carson.
No, after me, it was me and then Ben Carson, and then they had to leave and set up for the next event, which was Rubio and Cruz. So they were all...
So you were like in a political sandwich.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yes, so they had set up metal detectors for anyone who wanted to go into that event. There was secret security, Secret Service all around the place. And so I realized this was interesting. Okay, you couldn't get into the event with Cruz and Rubio without going past Secret Service, and going through metal detectors. But I was a speaker in the event
right next door.
Right next door, and there was a service access hall in between the two rooms for bringing food and stuff. And I had to go to the green room, which was around the corner down that hall. And as I came out, I realized I could have gone through the door right across and come up right behind Rubio and Cruz on stage.
That would have been...
And tackled them.
Good thing you didn't do that. That would have been really bad.
And wouldn't that have been interesting?
So security wasn't very good.
VeggieTales creator takes out two presidential hopefuls.
That'd have been
film
awesome
at 11.
Headline.
I know.
Maybe
I would have been on CNN.
I know.
I would have been everywhere.
Maybe your celebrity status would have shot back up.
Yeah, I should have had like a Phil Vischer podcast T-shirt.
You should have.
And I'd run out.
If we'd only make those T-shirts.
I run out with a puppet or a ukulele. No, I run out and I start hitting Ted Cruz in the head with a ukulele.
Oh.
Everybody covers it. It's all over the news. They say, "What's his T-shirt?" Phil Vischer podcast.
Then we'd have much more listeners.
We'd be bigger than This American Life.
We would be.
Like that.
Like in a heartbeat.
But you know what I did?
I'm glad you didn't do that.
Do you know what I did instead?
You cowered the other direction.
I just noticed and thought, oh yeah, okay, no, I got to go back and give my talk.
Well, but did you happen to bump into
anything.
them or listen to them?
No,
or?
I could hear, walking down the hall in the back, I could hear Ted Cruz's unmistakable voice.
Oh, yeah, it is very unmistakable.
It's very distinct. Very distinct.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, he went to school with my brother.
He did?
I probably told you that, didn't I?
In the same class?
He was ahead of him, but they were both at Harvard Law together.
Did he know him?
Yes, because they wrote on the law review together.
That's interesting.
Yeah, my brother
So did you
pictures.
happen to see the circus that we refer to as the Republican debate?
Yeah, I saw that. Did you see the interview with Donald Trump afterwards?
Oh, yes, I did.
where he complained about being audited?
Yes, I did.
So much, and said, did you see that, Jonathan? Did you
did not.
see that? Okay. So he complained about being audited so much, and the interviewer says, well, why do you think you're audited so much? And he says, I don't know, maybe religion.
I know. and he said, you think you're being audited because you're a Christian?
What? What do you mean religion? And he honestly said, well, I am a very strong Christian, as if we would all then say, that's why he's being audited.
I know.
Because if there's because for 12 years, he says he's been audited 12 straight years.
Right.
It says if there's anything that Donald Trump is known for over the last 12 years, it's his commitment to the Christian faith and how...
It just pains me so much. It just pains me so much. And you know what I loved was how he just kept saying he didn't repeat himself over and over and over again.
Saying that he didn't repeat himself because Marco Rubio said he did repeat himself.
Oh my, even he said, I didn't repeat myself. I don't repeat myself. Over and over
Our
again.
friend Jonathan Merritt said the idea that Trump has drawn a target on his back for being too outspokenly religious surely ranks as one of the more ridiculous statements made by a man with a history of outlandish remarks. But it will likely appeal to some conservative Christian voters who feel they are increasingly being marginalized in American society and even persecuted for their beliefs. It just seems like if you look up pander in the dictionary,
it would say Donald Trump.
Well, that like event. That's saying, I'm persecuted. I'm probably my taxes get audited because I'm known as such a strong Christian. For someone who's never been known as a strong Christian.
Yeah, that's just horrible.
That's
Did
craziness.
you hear about what Max Lucado did?
Yeah, Max Lucado wrote a piece about
He's never
Donald
come
Trump.
out and said anything political.
I saw that.
And he broke his vow of silence on political matters to say, do you have it there?
No, I don't have it, but it was good.
Yeah, he basically came out and said that why Christians should not be for Donald Trump.
Yeah, he joined in, and we've said that from the beginning, that like 95% of Christian leaders, Max Lucado breaks political silence to warn evangelical voters about Donald Trump.
Yes.
That is very unusual.
Pretty gutsy.
And here's what he said in his post. I don't know Mr. Trump, but I've been chagrined at his antics. He ridiculed a war hero. He made mockery of a reporter's menstrual cycle. He made fun of a disabled reporter. He referred to the former First Lady, Barbara Bush, as mommy and belittled Jeb Bush for bringing her on the campaign trail. He routinely calls people stupid, loser, and dummy. And these were not offline, backstage, overheard, not to be repeated comments. They were publicly and intentionally tweeted, recorded, and presented. So for Lucado, the man who's on track to win the nomination is a far cry from decent. So he's calling for decency, basically, that we should be following people and looking up to people that practice decency. The stock explanation for his success is this. He has tapped into the anger of the American people. As one man said, we are voting with our middle finger. Sounds more like a comment for a gang fight than a presidential election. Anger-fueled reactions have caused trouble ever since Cain was angry at Abel.
Oh, that's so true. Wow. I don't know.
Lucado is endorsing decency for president.
I like that.
I'm not sure he's running.
I know. I'm not sure he's running either. Yeah. So very sad.
That's a little depressing. Okay, we do have a guest here, though. Did you know we have a guest?
Yeah, I think his name is Jonathan.
We have a guest. Okay.
That's our transition music, just in case you were wondering.
That was a segue.
Oh, and we have a new camera guy, by the way.
A segue here?
Yeah, we have a segue. We have a new camera guy. Yeah, Jason Rugg. That's you.
Hi.
Say hi.
Rugg singular, right? Not rugs.
Yeah, just Rugg.
Just Rugg, not rugs. But if there's more than one of you in a room, when your family gets all together, it's filled with
the rugs.
It's filled with rugs. Then, okay, just checking. Okay, Jason was you interned here at Jellyfish Studios.
Was it during the Phil Vischer podcast TV show? No.
No.
Okay.
No, it was.
In the 150s.
Oh, it couldn't have been that. It had to be further back. Then maybe, I don't know.
What number are we on?
What? Do you know what number this is?
187, I think. I can check.
187?
We'll look it up. We don't even know what number
this is our
show we're
celebration month.
on. It
I
is?
think.
What are we celebrating?
We're celebrating 4 years or 5 years or something. I don't know how many years it's been. It's been a lot of years.
Oh, last week was 189.
Okay,
so this
we're
is 190.
190.
This is episode 190.
Yeah.
We're 10 episodes away from the big 200.
That's
Now at 100, we asked people to give us questions, to ask us questions.
right.
Remember that?
I do remember that. That was a long time ago, though.
At 200, we should ask them questions.
Okay, I'm all for that. Whenever
know.
I
I
ask
don't know how
them,
that
like,
works.
what, I don't know, what did I ask them? I asked them what color they were or what.
Yes, yeah. We've asked them some odd things.
Yeah. I like it when they answer.
And we get odd answers. Okay, but we have a guest. Our guest
Sorry. We're on to the guest segment now.
Jonathan Walton, who has a master's degree from Wheaton College in theology. This we've established. And is co-writing a book with his dad, which is why you're here.
Which is why I'm here.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's why you're here.
That is why. Actually, I'm here because you told me to come here.
There's that.
Because your dad told you to come here.
Well, you offered snacks.
Oh, yeah, we did offer snacks.
There's like a fish and
Our
pole out the door.
payment are sodas and Snickers bars.
Yeah, mini Snickers. Those little Snickers nuggets.
Yes.
Little square Snickers. So we were talking 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, with your dad about the article that you were writing on the conquest of Canaan.
Yes.
Which since then has now morphed into potentially a book.
Which since then has morphed into a book, and next time you see us, it will probably be an encyclopedia.
Okay, or maybe a Hollywood movie.
Or maybe a Hollywood movie.
Yeah. Documentary.
It sounds kind of bloody.
Yes.
Well, it's like Gods of Egypt,
Right.
which just came out and is doing horribly.
Yes.
I knew that would do horribly.
I know.
It just looked like, no, that's not going to work.
You know
It's
things.
going to do horribly.
They should just listen to you, Phil.
They should. Nobody does. Even when I get up and speak. I get up and speak and everyone's listening to
That's
Ted
not-
Cruz and Marco Rubio in the next room.
Could you hear them from where you were?
No.
Oh.
No, not from inside. But if I went out in the back hall and snuck behind Secret Service, then I could. Okay. We got into it last time with your dad, but other people wanted to hear more. They wanted to know more. They said there were 10 things that I said I was going to get into, and we didn't get into all of them. So we want to dive into this. Here's a question, though, and this was asked by one person. Before we start, are you assuming the historicity of the accounts? And is that simply because we're evangelical Christians and we're supposed to?
Can I interpret that question? You're asking him. I just want to make sure I'm tracking. Okay. Sometimes you talk big words.
Sorry.
So you just want to make sure that he is assuming that what is written in the Old Testament is historically accurate.
Right. That is based on something that really happened. Because one of our listeners said, well, obviously there's another way around it. It didn't happen. And it was, made up during the exile, and therefore, God is just the New Testament God. He's not the Old Testament God, because that God was a product of Israel's imagination.
Well, isn't that they told this big story after they got through it, and they could have said anything?
I guess which would make it Israeli propaganda.
Right.
Then.
Well, I do assume that it's based on historical events, but not just because we're supposed to, because that's how you look at ancient documents. I mean, when I look at the Assyrian war annals or the Egyptian conquest accounts, I assume that those are based on historical events just because we have them.
Do you also assume that there's hyperbole in?
You do. You assume that there's hyperbole, and you assume that it's being told from a perspective. You can't look at a historical narrative and think about it that it's a transcript of what you would see if you went back with a video camera and a TARDIS.
Right. Right.
They are interpretations of events by an author for some purpose. So you have to look at not just the events that are recorded and say, how many troops were there, how many chariots were there, how many casualties were there.
Right.
You have to kind of abstract those things. There's a battle, and they won, and But when you're looking at the Bible, what the Bible is trying to teach us is not a documentary about what a bunch of people fought a war over back in 1500 BC or whatever.
It's not necessarily a history book.
Well, you have to talk about
It's not a modern history book.
It's not a modern history book because when we write modern history books, we're interested in the phenomena, in what you would see if you were there with a camera. It's a scientific approach to history, and it's not even accurate when we do it. Like when the news reports events, the news interprets the events as they present them. It's part of the process of converting events into a story. And when we transmit history,
is that why we can complain? We can say, "Oh, the liberal media," because they're making everything, they're skewing everything one way. Or we can say, "Oh, Fox News, they're skewing everything that way."
Partially, but it has to do more with when you turn history into a narrative. Some people, like you used the words earlier, like that it's something that they just made up.
Yeah.
But normally, when we turn history into a narrative, it's the other way around. We cut stuff out. Like this stuff that you're filming, there's going to be footage of things that are happening here that when we turn this into a product is going to be gone.
You would hope so.
You would think that would happen, but that doesn't happen. Other than the fact that we never record all the pre stuff or the post stuff, which is also really good.
I'm actually counting on that happening. I expect to not be here when this is done.
We will let you continue in your delusion.
Yes, go ahead.
So it's the idea of when in order to take a series of data, things that happen, and turn it into a story where you focus on one person and that person becomes the protagonist, and you focus on certain events that this person does that becomes the plot. That's all revision. It's taking data and it's artificially prioritizing these bits and these bits.
Right.
And the way that you do that then becomes your story. And you can do things like what you were talking about with Fox News. The exact same event can produce two different and even contradictory accounts, neither of which are in any real sense made up, because they're fabricated, but they're also based on
something
real
that actually happened.
Yes.
So when you and your dad look at ancient document, what are you looking for? I think I've heard him say this. I can't remember if this was SKYE or your dad.
They do. They're so confusing. They look so much alike.
The question you really can't ask is what really happened.
Right. Because you're not going to find
Because it's beyond your access.
It's something really happened, and somebody recorded an interpretation of that, and that interpretation is all we have.
Well, so what documents are we talking about? I mean, we're talking about the Bible, of course. What other documents have you looked at that tell sort of the same stories and events?
Well, you can look at things like, it's pretty much any document. In the ancient Near East, you have things like the Epic of Gilgamesh. You have a couple of other legends that this isn't my field, so I don't really have exact things on. But even, you have things like the Iliad. It's the Trojan War. There was a Trojan War, but it's been turned into this
It's
literary,
it's sort of like the Trojan War, the musical.
Kind of. Then you have things like the Aeneid, or you can do it with pretty much anything because it's part of how you create historical documents. You can do it with the news.
Right. Well, I'm wondering what documents you guys look at.
It depends what we're doing.
Okay. So for this, say. For
this, we're looking at Egyptian and Assyrian conquest material that when they record their victories in battle. There's some stuff from Thutmose. There's some stuff from Esarhaddon and Ashurbanipal, which is
whatever that means.
You asked.
I know.
Are those pharaohs?
Thutmose is a pharaoh. Ashurbanipal is an Assyrian king.
Oh, okay.
And they record monuments that glorify their victories, and spin, I guess you would say, their victories in the context of the politics of their day and things like legitimizing their reigns, celebrating themselves for posterity.
So you have to look at all of them in context, in comparison to one another, in order to search for and hunt for what might be true.
Well, we're not really interested in reconstructing the events.
Okay.
Historians do that. I'm not really a historian. I'm a philosopher theologian. So a historian will come and do that, and they'll look through all of the documents and all of the fragments of documents, and then they'll publish an article that says, this king did this at this place in this year. And then I'll look at that and try to figure out what's going on at the same time. But really what I'm more interested in is not so much the event, but in the interpretation of the event. Because that's ultimately what we have. The scriptures is someone's interpretation of this event. And if the evangelical commitment is not to say that that the event happened, although we would say that. You should say that because you should take history at its word for the most part if you're going to take anything. If you're going to believe in somebody like Caesar or Ashurbanipal or Nebuchadnezzar, you should believe in Joshua because that's the same process. So the question is that we're looking at is the interpretation that this historical writer gives us, is that accurate?
Right.
And not as much in the sense as is it accurate to what you would see if you had watched the battle with a camera, but is this interpretation right? Is what he says was a good thing really a good thing? Is what he says was good to happen, and this was a great achievement? Were they really great achievements, or were they terrible?
Okay. So what started this particular journey?
It's a bit of a longer process. I did my thesis on Satan and demons in the Christian worldview.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It is fun. But in the process of dealing that, you deal with issues involving the problem of evil and the nature of goodness and the nature of God's goodness. And in the course of learning about that, to be able to write about it competently, you learn about what some of the issues are in the philosophical and theological arenas, which includes the issue of the conquest. The conquest is fundamentally an extension of the questions about God's goodness. And in the process of learning how to deal with these issues as a philosopher, the reasons that people gave specifically for the conquest, or a specific instance of a broader principle, seem to make less and less sense. They don't. They're a form of an argument that doesn't work.
Okay.
And you can't deal with the problem of evil by saying that bad things happen because the people they happen to deserve them. That's not a sustainable answer. And
the Bible doesn't support it.
Because the Bible doesn't support it, and observation doesn't support it.
Okay. Bad things happen to good people.
Yes.
And good things happen to bad people.
Yes. And the Bible does talk about that. When my dad was writing his book on Job, I was helping him work through it, and that's what the book of Job is about. It's about bad things happening to someone who did nothing to deserve it.
Right.
And that's kind of like my life.
Oh.
All these bad things happen, and I don't deserve it.
We're going to pause for a little pity party.
No, not. I'm really joking.
For Pinky Tuscadero.
Yeah, you didn't say I was wearing pink today.
She's wearing pink. She's wearing pink because spring is in the air?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
This is my lucky pink shirt.
We have a video. You can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, but only the ones that are watching.
Most of our people listen.
80% are listening. 20% are watching.
Okay, so what were we talking about?
I don't remember.
Okay.
What were we talking about?
And what was the first big aha moment in this where you said, hey, I got something here?
I said that I didn't think that the accusation of wrongdoing of the Canaanites worked as an argument. But I hadn't really looked at the support for it because the people who come up with this, they have their text, and there's a particular text in Genesis 15 that says we're going to wait to give you, or this is how they normally interpret it, we're going to wait to give you the land for 400 years because the Canaanites by that time will have done enough sin that they will be worthy of being destroyed. Mm-hmm. And
that sounds like they're getting it for being bad.
That does. And so I wanted to take a look at that passage and see if that's what it really says.
Okay.
And it turns out that that's not what it really says.
What you talking about, Willis?
What I'm talking about,
You just told me what it said.
I told you what it's normally interpreted to say.
Oh, okay.
One of those words in particular, the word that's, do you mind if I say something, if I talk about something really complicated, because it is really complicated?
Go for it.
Now, here's the deal. I'm not promising I'm going to get it, but
Go for it.
I'll try.
Okay.
If I can understand it, you've done a great job.
Yeah. So what I just told you is what's called the gloss. It's how the passage is normally interpreted and translated into an idea.
Okay.
What it actually says is the guilt of the Amorites, and then there's a word that we don't know what it means. My NIV Bible translates it, has yet to reach its full measure. And so...
And is that an educated guess? Or
it's an educated guess, and it's...
Okay.
There are reasons why they guess it that way. It's kind of complicated to get into. I'm pretty sure the people aren't interested. You can read our book if you are.
It hasn't
Once
been
it's
yet.
written.
Once it's written. But basically, what we looked at is the words for that they translate guilt, the word that they translate yet, and the word that they translate reached its full measure. Mm-hmm. And what we found out was that none of those words mean those things.
Well, that's disconcerting.
That seems troubling.
Well, the way the translation works is translation is always involves interpretation. You have a language that people don't know. In this case, it's a dead language. It's a language that has not been spoken for thousands of years.
It's not Hebrew in this case?
Well, this is Hebrew, but
it's
ancient
old
Hebrew.
Hebrew.
Ancient Hebrew is different from modern Hebrew.
Okay.
So it's a dead language, and we don't know what these words mean. So we have the way that other people had translated them. In Hebrew, the Hebrew Bible, we have what's called the Septuagint, which is a translation.
I knew about
it's
that.
A translation
You know why I
in
knew
Greek.
that?
What's in the Bible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the episode that I actually worked on, I think, which is why I know
It's
it.
a translation in Greek, and we also have a tradition of interpretation all through from ancient Hebrew to classical Hebrew to modern Hebrew of Jewish scholarship. And that lets us try to figure out what these words mean. But when we come up with words, sometimes we have words that only appear in one place, or we have words that are used in untraditional ways, and we don't know what they mean. So we do have to guess. And in the process of making the educated guess, there is interpretation involved.
Right.
It's an inherent part of the translation process, and it's an inherent part of the reading process. I mean, even if you could read Hebrew,
Right.
and you
You're
were
still
reading
doing
this,
that.
you're still interpreting
Right.
as you read. And
So where do you and your dad come out on that verse then?
where do we come out on that verse? Well, the word that they translate sin, if you look at how else it's used in Genesis,
Yeah.
it always refers to something that God is doing, not something that the people are doing.
Oh.
Now I have to say, what you talking about, Willis?
So
God
it's
is
used.
sinning?
Well, no, because it doesn't mean sin. It means it refers to punishment. Actually.
Okay.
So in
What? Wait a minute. What's the word?
the Hebrew word is avon.
Avon. And you're saying avon means punishment.
Avon means punishment.
So use the word sin in a sentence like you're talking about.
Use the word sin in a sentence.
It's not the word sin, though.
It's not the word sin.
I know it's not, but the Bible says what?
Your NIV translation says the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure.
Okay, so the avon of the Amorites
Yes,
is not.
the avon of the Amorites
So
is
the
not-
punishment.
Yes, the
I see.
punishment that is due to fall on the Amorites is what that means.
Okay.
The punishment that is due to fall on the Amorites Has not reached its full measure?
Well, then that phrase that means reached its full measure, that's not what that means either.
Okay, what does that mean?
That's the word that only appears there, so we have to guess. And we can guess based on how...
Boy, you know, people are not going to like this.
This is what we
Especially
do.
Solomon.
This is what we do.
He's not going to like this.
And we can guess how it is, what it means based on other uses. The word is an adjective that generally has a sense of fullness or completeness.
Okay.
It's most commonly used for stones in the context of construction projects. So when your Bible says made of uncut field stones, that's that word.
They're full?
Yes.
They've had a big breakfast.
Full stones?
Yeah, full or complete.
Okay.
But then with physical objects, that just means undamaged. It refers to bodies. Your body being whole means you're healthy or uninjured.
Okay. Okay.
When you say a building project, the temple project is full, it means the project has been completed.
Okay. So their punishment is not full.
Kind of. But there's one
Not
passage.
kind of. Exactly.
There's one passage in Ruth where this adjective full modifies an abstract noun that means wages, which carries compensation. And the way that your NIV translates it is fully repaid.
Okay.
So since we see that the idea of punishment is compensation,
Yeah.
and wages is also compensation,
Yeah.
we think that in this context, this word means fully paid out.
Okay.
That's so confusing because that's kind of the opposite of what the Bible
Punishment has not been fully paid out.
Yes.
Okay, so they haven't been punished enough yet.
But the other thing is the word that means yet doesn't mean yet.
Does it mean,
exhausting. How do you do this work?
Very slowly. Now, the word that means yet, the English word yet, anticipates a change in state.
Yes.
So if I say that
it's not dark yet.
That it's not dark yet, it means it's not dark right now, but it will be soon.
Yes.
The Hebrew word that they're translating yet actually indicates a perpetual continuing state.
Like the now and the not yet? No.
No, it's...
I don't know. It just kind of made sense in my head before it came out.
No.
So it's better translated. It's usually translated still or since. In this context, still works best.
Okay.
So we say the way that we would like to translate it is that the punishment that is due to the Amorites is still not being paid out.
Wow.
Okay.
Is that a meaningful statement?
It is a meaningful statement because the verse that comes right before that, in Genesis 15:15, God tells Abraham that you will be gathered to your ancestors in peace. It's an assurance to Abraham that his life will be peaceful.
Okay.
So what comes next in verse 16?
The war for the Amorites is not going to come for a while.
Right, is not going to come for a while. So
you can die in peace.
So he can die in peace, but not only him, but also the Amorites. If you look at chapter 14, the chapter before, when Lot gets captured by the coalition of kings, Abraham goes to his rescue along with a group of Amorites who are his allies. Mm-hmm. So what this passage is saying is that Abraham will not have to worry about there being a conflict to take over the land in his lifetime. And he also won't have to worry that his descendants will have to do horrible things to his allies. Because God has promised to him, earlier in this chapter, Genesis 15, this is the covenant. God has promised that the land will be taken from its current inhabitants and given to Abraham and his family. Mm-hmm. Now, the word avon, it doesn't
Which means with.
Which means.
No. What does it mean?
Well, it can mean punishment, but what it really means is a destiny of calamity that is going to befall you.
Wait.
A destiny of calamity.
A destiny of calamity.
I like that too.
I like that.
Now,
kind of a poetic
that
essence.
was my first rock group.
Destiny of calamity. That can mean punishment if you did something wrong. So Cain kills Abel.
Yeah.
And then God inflicts a destiny of exile on him. And he responds by saying, my avon, which your Bible translates guilt, my destiny of calamity is too great for me to bear.
Oh.
Likewise, in Genesis 19, when Lot is fleeing Sodom, the angel says, get away and don't turn back, or else you will be swept up in the avon of the city, the destiny of calamity that's falling on the city.
Wow.
And in that case, in both the case of Cain and in the case of Sodom, it shows you what they did. Cain murders Abel.
Right.
Sodom.
We all know about Sodom.
Sodom does
You don't need
things
to go into
that
that.
you're not allowed to say on TV.
Sodomy.
But for the Amorites, it never says anything they did.
Okay.
And we know from the way that that word is used in other ancient Near Eastern literature, or the word that means the same concept is called a semantic equivalent, that you can have, the gods can decree destiny of calamity on you for no reason.
Okay.
That's what happens in Job. God sends a destiny of calamity on Job for no reason.
Right.
But we also see in a document called the Lament for Ur, city of Ur, the gods destroy the city, and
The gods, plural, meaning
the gods, plural.
these
This is
people
a-
think.
Ur believed in
Ur believes in multiple gods. So this is their own account of
Is
why
it the
their city
Urians?
was destroyed. I don't know what they're called.
Urians, the Urites?
The Urites. We can call them the Urites.
I like Urians.
Urians. It sounds like a Doctor Who villain.
Yeah. Okay.
And the reason why they destroy it is not because they've been offended by anything that the city did. They have just decided that it is time for the city to be destroyed.
Sure.
Because they're overseeing order in the cosmos.
Because they need
and
to build
the
a parking
time comes
lot.
up.
There.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, they wanted to build a theme park.
Okay, so these
Or
are
the
things,
Nashville Mall.
Or the Nashville Mall. Yeah, and there goes the theme park. Or so these are the reasons that have led you, first of all, to throw away the idea that, well, the Canaanites had it coming.
Yes.
And it was judgment.
Yes.
And then what we talked about with your dad more was the idea of harem, and that it's different. It's not genocide. It's not wipe them out.
Right.
And it's probably being misinterpreted.
Right.
In many cases, and it's more
Moving away.
yes, moving away,
Pushing
or
away, driving out.
Evicting.
The word they use is drive out. You could use evicting as well.
evicting. Okay, and that, how has that been received, or are we the only ones that know about this?
So far, you're the only ones who know about it.
Awesome. Okay, can I just say one thing, though?
Yes.
All right, this is all great and all, okay?
Uh-oh.
But it seems extremely complicated that all of these gyrations, which happen to be a lot of semantics, can be translated to people like me.
Well, they are every day, though, because you read your Bible. And all that has happened already to get the English words that you're reading.
I know, this is my point. You're making my point for me.
So really this is, you're getting to see how they make the sausage.
Right.
To say, oh, wow, that's kind of messy to get to the words that you've given to me, and you could have made other decisions along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're concerned?
Yes, because, I mean, okay, you have this degree and all, and so does your dad, and you guys can study all of that and have that deeper understanding, but I just got to take your word for it. Or somebody else's at the end of the day.
You do have to take somebody's word for it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, somebody's word. Now, this is, okay, how much of the Bible is written in ancient Hebrew? The entire Old Testament, or the older parts of the Old Testament?
The older parts of the Old Testament. There's a couple of, I think it's mostly in Daniel, is Aramaic.
Okay.
But most of it is in older Hebrew. And there's apparently divisions in how old the Hebrew is as well. I think most of it is from what's called the Iron Age, which is
okay.
the
That's
time
my
of the
favorite
kings.
Hebrew. It's Iron Age Hebrew. But the New Testament isn't nearly as difficult, correct?
No, the New Testament is all written over a period of about 50 years.
Yeah.
In Greek.
Yeah, and we have contemporary examples of Greek.
This is much more. So it's much easier to figure out.
So you don't have to freak out about the whole Bible. being
just the tricky bits.
No,
in the Old
just
Testament.
the oldest bits.
Right, just the oldest bits.
oldest bits. So,
well, even a lot of the stuff that's in the Bible you have, it comes from 2,000 years of interpretation.
yeah.
Already.
And it's not just it's not just in linguistics, in philosophy and theology too. And the complexity of that is absolutely dizzying if you get into it.
Right, and so
we don't get into
right,
it.
like me, you just read and you take it at face value.
Don't get into it and say, wow, we sure did kill a lot of Canaanites, but I guess that's okay. Well, so it's valuable to take some of these issues and really dive in.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy this? Is this?
I do. It's
I'm going to use air quotes. Fun.
it's satisfying.
Okay,
That's a good
I
word.
can see where it would be.
To be able to understand and to see all the pieces fitting together.
Yeah.
And
but
to see how they have been fit together.
And
as
your
well.
overall conclusion is the way we've read it in that 2,000-year tradition has made it easier to accuse God of genocide.
Yes. I'm not sure. I haven't done as much study on the full history of interpretation of it.
Okay.
It seems to me that the accusations, that the ease of accusing God of genocide mostly comes from people who really, really want to accuse God of genocide.
Right.
Because they are not very good at reading even the conventional interpretation of the text that non-Christians have used.
Okay. We're actually out of time.
Oh.
Did we cover any of his topics?
Yeah, well, a bunch of them. Yeah, actually, that covered a whole bunch of them.
It did?
Because the first big chunk of the topics are basically about did the Canaanites deserve it? Is that why
That whole
they were killed?
The whole studying the words.
Yeah,
Right.
and then the
Most
second
of it.
chunk is about harem. And are
Okay.
we interpreting harem?
we did that
and
with
that's
John.
what we did with
So can I just ask one quick
John.
question before you start singing?
Yes.
So what would your detractors say about the way that you're going about?
They haven't read his book yet.
Well,
They haven't read my
I
book
know,
yet.
but I'm saying the detractors in your head that you know once they read your thoughts.
They would say that it's not right to say that you have to be a specialist with linguistics training in Hebrew to be able to read the Bible and figure out what it says. That you need to be able to just pick up your book and it says sin, and that means that they were committing sin.
But isn't that forgetting that someone else has already been a specialist in Hebrew?
The detractors in my head aren't very smart, so I
That
feel-
would be me.
I feel bad answering for them.
Well, when your detractors have become more educated, come back and tell us what they say.
Oh, you can tell us what they think, because you'll hear from them.
Yes, we will hear from them. Our detractors will write on his Facebook page. You can just chime in.
Hey, buddy, is there anywhere to hide when somebody accuses God of committing genocide? Or can we say, no, we've read deeper, and we think that God is a keeper? Because while you were saying that he was wrong, I was just illuminated by Jonathan Walton to sing this song about how to interpret, what was the word, sin?
Yvonne.
Oh, hey, it rhymes with song. About how to interpret Yvonne correctly, so I know that we can do some inspecting of the scripture and get it right. Okay.
That was positively inspired.
That wasn't. I won't go that far. Thanks, Jonathan, for being on the show.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank
Sometime
you for
we'll have
having me.
you and your father on the show at the same
that'll be
time.
fun.
How fun.
And we can watch the sparks fly. Welcome back to the video.
It was so great to see you guys.
Guy will be back
Sort
with us
of.
next week. We will see you then.
Bye.
Bye.